So this is Tim.
Hi.
Hi Tim. Tim is a good friend of mine, and you're the inventor of the rose beehive.
Rose beehive.
Over the last few years, and you've been always telling me to maybe use the rose hive, and it's only now that actually...
I've been making suggestions.
Okay. And it's only now that actually we found that I'm after buying a few, and I actually find them amazing, and I wanted to really actually share that with the viewer at home as well. So do you want to just tell us about it?
Okay, so David, on this lovely day in July, let's have a look at a rose hive.
Okay.
It's a standard national roof and crown board, and here's a box on a floor.
Right.
The difference is that the frames are a little shallower than a national brood frame.
Okay.
So here we have, this is an ordinary national brood frame,
Right.
and this is a rose frame, and you can see that it's a little bit shallower, right? That's otherwise they're the same dimensions. Now, the big difference is that the whole stack is made of boxes the same size. So if that was a colony of bees and it needed more space, I put another box on that is identical. Now, some people would say, well, is this a brood chamber and this is a super? No, it doesn't matter. Because
it's all the one.
It's all the one. There is no queen excluder in there at all. The queen can do whatever she wants to do. She can wander about, and what she'll do is build a brood nest that is the natural shape, which is sort of egg-shaped or onion-shaped. And that onion-shaped nest will get bigger in the spring, expand, and often it will get much bigger than this, and then in the autumn it will shrink away. So if this was a good healthy colony and it was building up quickly, and you said, I'm a beekeeper, so I'm going to give them more space, what I could do is give them another box on the top. But what I actually do in the spring, if you'd help me, I put it in between where the space is needed.
Right.
So what you're trying to do is help the bees. So if their brood nest is expanding, what normally happens if they run out of space, they have to move all the honey that's around the edge of the brood nest, move it out of the way. But if you put a box in the middle, you're instantly giving them space exactly where they want it, in the middle of the brood.
And often they will just the queen will lay straight away, and then you kind of give an explosion.
You can very quickly, rapidly build up the number of bees in a colony. You can build them up very, very quickly because
very fast.
The queen she could lay a whole box in just 3 or 4 days, and so the colony will very quickly expand.
So how many boxes do you actually put on top?
I give them a box whenever they need it. Up until the middle of June, I would be giving them a box in the middle of the brood chamber whenever they need it, and they'll often get to, say, 4.
4 high, yeah. So you want to put it here?
Yeah, I would even put it in below.
Okay.
I would normally put it in the second position, but you can see it doesn't matter as long as it's in the middle of the brood nest.
Okay, yeah.
So until the middle of June, this is getting bigger, and in fact they'll get even bigger. The queen will lay up into 4, 5 or 6 boxes depending on how strong and vigorous and young she is. So it does make you wonder why anybody would squash a queen into one small
into little national brood box.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Makes no sense to me.
Because of the queen excluder being
that's
not allowing it to go into the supers.
Exactly. Well, you see that normally in a standard national hive, you have to have an excluder between the 2 sizes of framing. Otherwise the queen will come up and lay eggs in there. And it makes no point. There's no point in having 2 different sizes if you don't have an excluder. But I think it's much better not to have the excluder.
I agree.
And let the queen do what she wants to do. Let the whole colony do what it wants to do. And that, in the natural state, if it was in the hollow tree or wherever, the brood nest would be in the middle, and it would be surrounded by the honey and by the pollen. And above it is where they stack all the honey that they're going to need for the winter. And then at the end of the summer, that brood nest shrinks and shrinks and shrinks and ends up down here somewhere. And if you're a beekeeper and there's plenty of honey, you can take off maybe boxes off the top of honey,
But you don't feed sugar and I don't feed sugar.
I wouldn't dream of feeding sugar.
Sometimes they make more than they need. So you can take that surplus.
Most years they'll make far more than they need. Yeah, so we take the surplus and we leave them plenty behind for the winter.
Plenty of honey in. Yeah. So what else is good about this hive?
Well, it's simple. You only need one size box in your store cupboard. You only need one size frame. There are three main management differences.
Okay.
Three things that make it easier. One of them, which we just discussed, is adding a new box where you want it. So in the spring, you put it in the brood nest after the longest day.
Which kind of helps the population explode because the queen will be laying. And
exactly.
more
So
space,
after when they reach maximum population, then they concentrate on putting away stores for the winter. So what I would do then, if they get to this size and it's now July and they need more space, they don't need that space in the brood nest. They need it on top, above the brood nest. So that's where I would just slide in more boxes, just above the brood nest.
So Tim, and the other management, you said there's three. So
there's three. There's that adding boxes where they need it.
That makes it easier.
Yep.
Right. And better for the bees.
If you have very old comb, for instance, in the bottom box, and it's very easy to switch the boxes around. It doesn't matter where. You can put them in a different position in the stack. So you might work up through the season a dirty box of comb into the second position, and then it'll be worked up to the top.
Eventually
gradually
becoming a honey super.
Exactly. So it can come off at the end of the season, and you haven't destroyed any brood because there's only honey. You extract the honey and melt down the comb. So it's a very easy way.
Melt it?
I would replace every comb. I try every second year. So there's nearly new comb every year. So just for the point of view of trying to keep everything in the hive clean and healthy.
Diseases,
So that's the second one. And the third one is how you divide up a colony. If you want to make expansion.
I mean, we'll go into detail about that in a while.
Yeah.
But
essentially, because if you wanted to, you could divide up a colony.
There'll be a follow-up video. Yeah, go on.
Take it away. You can take two boxes away. You could take one box away. Now, there may be too much honey and not enough brood in. That's okay. You just
swap it around.
Swap a few frames around until you've got the right combination. And then you
put
just
the queen cell in and
put it on a floor, put a crown board on the top, and you've got a new hive. Okay, so what I often do is instead of giving them a whole sheet of foundation, I just give them a starter strip, which is taken from a whole sheet of unwired national, could be super or it could be brood, it doesn't matter. So it doesn't have to be perfect.
So maybe 5 centimeter strip?
Less than that, that's only 2 or 3. And that would go in at the top, on the top bar. You have to pin it in fairly tight.
Right.
Otherwise, there isn't as much holding it on. Good man. Okay, well that's going to be...
We don't need to nail it, but yeah.
So, what you can see there is, it just makes sure that the comb gets built within the frame. And they will quickly build down. They'll build down here. Sometimes they build 2 arcs. Sometimes one big one, and eventually they'll fill it all up and it'll all become solid. And the advantage with that is that if honey goes into it, you can cut comb very quickly, very beautifully. Cut comb because there is no foundation in the middle. But the main reason I do this is so that they can choose what sort of brood cells to make. As you know, most foundation is printed already with the starting size of worker cells, which encourages the bees to build worker comb. So they lay
about 5.5 mil, I think, isn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah. No, because there's different sizes, 6 and 5.5 mil. One for the black bee and
And that, if you fill up a whole hive with nothing but worker foundation, you will get some drones, but not enough, I think. So what I do is give them more of a choice. So if they're going to build comb here, and it'll have either worker or drone cell in the comb. I don't know what they're going to build, but they know what they're going to build, and I presume they're building for a good reason. And they build quite a bit of drone comb, and they produce quite a bit of drone. And I think that's a good thing, because if that's what they want,
it's
let them do it. Let them do it. And overall, it has to be good for the genetic health of the bees, because
That
then
is
there
the
are
problem
more
at the moment,
drones.
isn't it? There's
Yeah.
less drones and...
It's certainly one of the problems. There isn't enough genetic diversity.
Yeah.
And you can only get genetic diversity if you've got an awful lot of drones chasing that princess before
It's just
she gets
when
mated.
humans interfere, huh? It's just...
Humans and their
Humans.
well-meaning foundation,
Yeah.
which is a wonderful invention, but
For us, but not
exactly, it's
for
just
the bees. Yeah.
we just didn't know enough. But now, but the point is, I also use whole sheets of foundation. I'm
Yes.
not suggesting anybody goes completely one way or completely the other way. I'm using
I've
a
done that
combination.
just one way, and that was interesting. I mean, they obviously draw it sideways and
They can do that
any
too.
way
Yes.
they want, so you don't get the nice...
If you want to keep it really simple, you make a sandwich of whole sheet, starter strip,
whole sheet.
and whole sheet, and then that comb in the middle would be nice
Straight,
and neat
yeah.
and straight, and very simple for beekeepers who need
Yeah.
it simple. We have hard enough.
We
life.
do need it simple enough as well. Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to add is, I kind of made you do this because I want to show off Tim's books, which we have here. We have the Rose Hive method, and this one is for, so this explains everything you need to know. So you can get it on Amazon, I suppose?
You can, yes.
Can you?
Oh.
And this one is for kids, which is, I mean, I personally was really amazed about this book. It shows how kids can actually become beekeepers. Much lighter hive. It's the top bar hive that you're giving as an example. So a very fun book.
Thanks, David.
Could you maybe just say your website as well? Just because...
If I get it right, it's rosebeehive.com.
Yeah, and you're actually selling thorns, as if you're selling these hives?
Thorns, yes. You
For
can
you as
buy
well?
all the parts, or
Yeah.
the instructions are in the book.